Welcome to another edition. This is Real Talk. We're here with Janice. Janice?
No, Julie.
Wrong card. We'll put that in there. It's okay. Wait, it's not Kate?
No, it's Julie.
Okay. Can you get me the right card, please? Julie, welcome. Julie Fleetwood with Jameson, Sothebys.
You're right on.
So we talked real estate, your production. I noticed you push your Michigan background a lot, but you don't live in Michigan, right?
No, I don't. No.
And Michigan Wolverines and all that?
Yes.
Oh, that.
Yes.
They did cheat, didn't they?
Okay, I'm out.
Well, I'm just going by what the news says. Okay, welcome to another edition of Real Talk with Dean Vlamas. Today we're here at the A&N She Shed, but we're with Julie Fleetwood from Jameson, Sothebys on the North Shore. So thanks for being with us today.
Yeah,
and we're going to have a different, unique view of what's going on the North Shore, the market, and in general. But first and foremost, congratulations are due because she's a Michigan alum, and the Michigan Wolverines ran the board this year.
They did. It was a good year.
They
yes.
put Nick Saban into retirement.
I love it. Yes, yes.
So.
We'll be sad to see Harbaugh go, but
right.
you know.
So that's a big deal. He was there for quite a while. But
yeah.
You're Michigan, family Michigan, all that stuff, right?
Yes. So I grew up in Southwest Michigan, a small town, and
where? What town?
Niles.
Yes, of course, I know it.
So just outside of what is now Harbor Country.
Yes,
it was not that
right.
way when I lived there. But yeah, so we grew up. I mean, I grew up going to what we call Tower Hill, the beach, which is Warren Dunes, I guess is what people call it. We called it Tower Hill. So yeah, Southwest Michigan.
It's beautiful
and
country up there.
Pardon me?
It's beautiful country up there.
Yeah,
really
it's great. I love it. So all of our family still lives in Southwest and Western Michigan. But yeah, I went to Michigan, met my husband. He was also a Michigan student.
That's you bleed blue. Then,
yes, we do. And so it was a good year.
With that. I couldn't believe they beat Alabama, but that's something. Good for them. So
it was the year.
Yeah, it's their year. We'll see what happens moving forward. So. All right, so we're going to talk a little about the market. 2023 is behind us. Probably one of the more challenging markets of the past 15 to 20 years, simply because, people will complain about interest rates. And I don't think it was just interest rates so much as inflation making everything expensive and not a lot of inventory. So what do you see as far as changes? Let's talk, first of all, where you focus on? What markets do you focus on?
Yeah, so I live in Wilmette. I lived in Evanston, in South Evanston, for 14 years. When my kids were little. And so my main focus is really where I know people, which is Evanston and Wilmette.
Right.
But, our clients take us all over. I mean, I've been selling more in Lake County, Highland Park, Lake Forest, Lake Bluff. Everyone's always liking Glenview. It's a good value. You typically can get more for your money than along the lake communities.
When you mention like Evanston and Wilmette, I always think the beautiful downtowns and sense of community. So is your business coming from just being there, being a part of that community, knowing people?
100%, yes.
Because I always get a different vibe up there where in different neighborhoods, I need to farm this, I need to call people. There it's just more of a sense of community. People know each other, right?
Yeah, I mean, and part of it is, I never thought I would be a realtor, but when I was living in Evanston and my kids were in school, I was the PTA president and super involved in the community. And then my kids all got to the age of where they were on school, and I started thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. And, real estate it happened.
That's interesting you say that, because my kids asked me if I went to college to become in the mortgage business. I said, no, I think our careers are two that you don't really go to college for, but you kind of find an affinity for it. So
totally. It's interesting. So yeah, it was nice because I had this kind of rooted community in Evanston. Once I made the foray into real estate, I already had a built-in network that know, like, and trust me.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I've noticed about those communities. So, okay, now let's get to the market. So as I mentioned, 2023 was a challenging year as far as lack of inventory, high interest rates and stuff, but you're seeing a change finally, or what are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, we did pretty good business in 23, despite the market. But what I'm seeing so far already, which is a robust market right now.
Right. Somewhat back to normal, like because typically we're going to the spring market where things pick up, right? So
yes, and it's starting early. I mean, back to normal would have been, I think, post Super Bowl, right?
Correct.
But it's already starting. So like January came and there's already multiple offers on the buy side. Yeah, it's going to be busy.
And inventory, same issue?
Inventory, I think inventory's picked up a little bit. I mean, I don't have like hard numbers on it, but the feel is that inventory is picking up. You know, sellers now know that if they want to get the most sellers now know if they want to get the most money, it makes sense to list in this time of the year.
And dealing with sellers, because a lot of times what I've seen in our industry is the internet educates everyone, whether it's accurate or not. So when a seller hears low inventory, they probably think they can hold out for the highest. There's a lot of education on your part, I would imagine, to say there's the internet and there's reality type of thing.
It's setting expectations.
Correct. Right.
Really. So. That's a huge part of my job as a listing agent is to set the expectations. Right. So yeah, it's educating them on, how to prep. The front end is the most important in my mind, getting as much done and prepared as possible in the beginning before we go to market.
Okay, so we talked about the communities you live in. It's Evanston and Wilmette, so you're doing that. So as I mentioned, a lot of people get their business, farming or going out there. You mentioned it's a kind of sense of community. It's just people networking through that. Oh, I know someone and that's how it works, or is it?
Yeah, one person leads to another.
Right.
You have a relationship, whether it be in real estate or otherwise, you have a relationship with someone and they know, like, and trust you, and that leads to them referring you to other people. Yeah. And what I like about that is you get to work with a lot of the people that you have good relationships with. Yeah. I mean, you jive, right? It's like,
Yeah, and that's community. That's what in a sense of community is. Sometimes in the city, it's hard, it's a different field. So that's a fascinating concept. So in doing that, so you have a footprint in Evanston and Wilmette just from living there, and then you're expanding. How do you differentiate yourself? Is where, every different marketing. I go back to 20 some years ago, my key marketing was bringing rate sheets and donuts to a real estate office on a regular basis, and it worked.
Yeah.
A, people work from home. B, that you have to change. So what do you do differently? You mentioned earlier you were in production and you're doing some type of video work, or explain it before
yes, my background before I became a mom was as a TV producer. So I've always been drawn to.
So how am I doing so far?
Yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great. So I was a TV producer, and really the crux of that was storytelling and meeting new people and telling their story. Right. So just naturally, it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't something that I set out to do, but organically it just feels right to talk about people more. So
through production, you've been doing, from what I understand, what's called the Friday feature up in your community. You've been doing this for quite a while. What is that you're featuring? What exactly?
Yeah, so the idea, again, building off of the idea of being a producer in my former life, I love the idea of storytelling.
Right.
And I love the idea of grassroots business development, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship. Right. And I love the idea of focusing on people who are doing something off the beaten path. So the Friday feature really is about featuring unique and interesting people who are mompreneurs or entrepreneurs who are just trying something different.
And you're approaching them, how do you find them randomly?
Yeah, I just know them. I mean, I guess mostly it's just knowing or listening and hearing about different people. Right. So we just recently did a Friday feature with my friend Lainey Caldwell, who started, she was a stay-at-home mom forever and decided to get in the business of flower making. Flower arranging. So she just started a new business and it's exploding. She does a beautiful job. So we just did a Friday feature on her.
And that's...
we have ideas for other ones coming up. A friend of mine started I play paddle tennis, and a friend of mine started a paddle tennis clothing line.
Really?
Yeah. So I kind of, that's at the, she doesn't know this yet, but I'd like to feature her.
That's a good thing. I just started playing paddle. So my knee's killing me from last night. So I have to stretch, but I know if it's because I get.
Well, I tore my ACL in a match several years ago. Yes, playing a match.
People warned me about that.
Yes.
Like I say, I work out regularly. Said, watch your Achilles.
The Achilles.
Watch all that stuff.
Yes.
So it's a tough sport. It's
I
not necessarily
do acupuncture, massage, just so I can stay on the paddle court.
Okay, so we'll talk about paddle. I'm sorry, I went from Laney. Okay, so we're going to pick it back. So that's just someone you're going to highlight as far as.
Yeah, again, I just like the idea of talking and meeting people and learning about what new things they're doing in our community, in our backyard.
So the whole concept is that you're very involved in the community and known in the community, and that's what you're kind of doing. It's telling the story, like you said, story about the community. I'm trying to think, because that's a really neat story, but because the first thing, because I live in his, I was thinking, but the little story you can just see a little. So you're just seeing a little shop, or like you hear the.
Yeah, an example is we did, and this isn't really mompreneur or entrepreneur thing, but we have clients who own a pizza shop in Evanston, and they started doing bocce in the back. We thought it would be something fun to highlight. Right. People need to know that this is kind of a new endeavor that these restaurateurs are starting. So we featured that when we did a feature on a gentleman who was a recent New Trier grad. He was in college, and during COVID, he came up with the idea of doing backyard movies. So he created this company called Backyard Cinema, and he would go into backyards and set up movie experience. And so we highlighted him.
That's a really good idea, isn't it? Something?
Yeah. And he's going to graduate from Michigan now, and he's probably going to be amazing doing something else.
But something like that. Okay.
One of the things, like my son is at New Trier, and he has friends who've started a T-shirt business. So that's one idea. I want to feature this kid who does a T-shirt business.
Because my son did that when he was in 8th grade.
Oh, really?
Now we live in suburb. I go, keep going.
Yes,
said,
totally.
Keep going. Don't stop.
I just want to encourage that creativity and that that spark of
something. So it's interesting. So I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I guess she makes these funny home videos for us only. And mortified if my wife will put it online, and I get it. She's, I don't, they get embarrassed, but there's so many different ways people make money with that social media type thing. That's fascinating.
Yeah. I guess the whole point is really just to feature interesting people and things, their endeavors they're undertaking.
That's a good idea. Okay, so
and support them. I want to support what people are doing, and
So how do you get this out there? How do you get the?
So we'll go and interview. I mean, it's not a high quality, super produced. We just basically, with our iPhone, sit there and interview someone and talk to them about what they're doing. And then, it just might be something that sparks someone else's interest to endeavor to learn more about that person.
Right. Do you have this on a website or anything?
So we put it on Instagram. We'll do reels. We'll post on Instagram. And I do have a YouTube page that I haven't quite gotten, but the idea with that, it would direct to the YouTube and probably to the website as well.
All right, so we talked about the market, talked about Michigan, talked about that, and what else do you want to?
So I recently started out on my own as a realtor.
Okay.
So I recently started on my own as a realtor. I have another woman who's on my team, and I think another thing that differentiates us is her knowledge. So her name's Julia, and she is actually a structural engineer by trade.
Right. So another person who didn't go to college to become a realtor.
Exactly. So she worked at big firms all over the world for many years, and then wanted to do something different once she started having kids.
Right.
So she became a realtor. But it's really nice because she does some project managing for our clients. So she'll, we want to prep a house for sale, and they need a bathroom redone. Julia acts as almost like a project manager or contractor.
Well, that's important, because I would imagine, I've been doing this quite a while. Back in the day when you had to do it all yourself, at some point it gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because so you mentioned the team. That's important as you approach your clients, that we have a team that can help all aspects of you, and it's more, you're prompt and responsive. Meaning, I remember, like, again, in years past, processing my own business, doing everything, and not trusting anyone else till you realize you're better serving your client when you get people like-minded like you to help you do things that they can do better than me in this case. So it's a good thing. So
and we do our own staging too, which is nice. So it's pretty a self-contained process,
right?
That we just manage from start to finish.
Got it. So that's good. When you're on a listing presentation, I go from a personal experience many years ago. I remember my wife and I bought our first house, and we bought it from the third realtor, and all that had happened was we found out is that. The original realtor told me you're listening too high, you have to bring the price down. They didn't listen, fired that realtor. Mm-hmm. Second realtor, same thing. And I realized sometimes it's not best to be first in line if your clients don't listen to you, right? I mean, that's the expectations you were talking about, right? Like,
yes. And it is tough. You know, I think there's a balance of, I always try to give, well, I do. I give my advice.
Right.
And you can advise and educate the client as much as possible with regard to market value. Sometimes clients have their own idea. Right. And I'm not one to say that we can't do a certain price, but they have to be aware that if they don't go in at the market value, it's likely going to take longer.
Right, and that not the term a waste of your time, but how do you measure that thinking? Because you still have to do that work. And
it ends up being more work.
Right.
But ultimately, it really is about giving the client what makes them feel good,
right.
and giving them, and trying to do my best to give them what they want, even if it may not be in line with the way that I think it should be.
Or what they see online, of course.
Yeah.
Stuff, so.
And I.
A lot of this past year with rates had gone, last 2 years, I should say, I don't know if you've dealt with this with buyers concerned about rates. They're concerned, and sometimes maybe I'll just wait and do something. I had a client who called me the other day, and first-time home buyer, and I said, I gave him his option for down payment. He goes, no, I've been waiting for years until I got a 20% down payment. The first thing I thought of when he said that, I've been waiting for years. So think about just buying a property and the appreciation he lost, the interest rates he lost a few years ago. And one thing I tell people is the cost of waiting. There's a cost to waiting. If you're losing that appreciation, real estate is an incredible investment. I think the last 42 years, the only down year was 2008, is what I understand. And so you're waiting for that. And on top of that, you can always refinance your loan into a lower rate when that happens. So I don't know if you've had that, people waiting on the fence.
Yeah, I think the excuse me, I think the further we've moved away from the 2 and 3% interest rates, the more people are realizing it's okay. I think normal. That immediate period right after the rates shot up was just such a buzzkill
for those who missed it, right?
Yes. Right. So I think it took, it was a lot of mental, just mental rebooting.
Right. That makes sense.
So I think we're there now. I think people understand, okay, you're 5, you're 6. That's manageable.
And it's normal.
Yes. And historically, it's still normal. Really low.
Yeah, right.
Yes. But I didn't see, this is what I saw. The interest rates didn't really affect buyers from what I've seen up on the North Shore.
Right.
What it did affect is it affected the upsize buyers. So it affected people who had locked in the 2-3% with their current home, and they just can't justify paying 6 and moving up into a more expensive home.
Or even downsizing and doing more expensive too. And that might be why the city's a little different, because you have renters saying, I'll just still rent, versus that's a community. People want to live in a community where they're going to make that move versus, what you have here. That's probably why it's a unique market up there compared to here. So
and sadly for the city, there are more and more people every year, I feel like, that are moving north.
I see that, or the suburbs in general.
Or in the suburbs in general.
I had first-time buyers, then they subsequently do their upgrade, then the suburbs, they're skipping that middle part is what it seems like. So
I think it's tough because the people who've been in their homes forever, not only do they have a great deal that they're sitting on, but there's nowhere for them to go.
Right.
I mean, there's just, there's not that sustainability to remain in your community. People can't afford it.
Yeah.
They can't afford it, and there just isn't the inventory. There isn't a downsized market.
Right. Oh, that's right. So
they're thinking about, so where are we going to move? Do we move to the collar suburbs? Do we move out of state?
Right. That's interesting. Like the collar, then you're just moving way out there. Right?
Yeah.
So what's the point of that then, right? And
well, because
what did they do? What was it in the past? I'm curious. Like the downsize, like townhome in Glenview or something like that. Or?
Yeah, I think townhome condo market.
Right.
But people are living longer too. They're not ready to go to a condo. They want a yard still. They just want something more manageable.
Right.
Yeah.
A challenge. So
it's a huge
I've
challenge.
Had friends he's a empty nester, and he goes, no, I want a bigger house because I want my kids to come back and visit with them.
Well, I have a client like that right now.
Really?
And
Okay.
everyone thinks they're crazy because they're like doubling the size of their house. But they're buying like what they want. They're buying an estate. They're buying the generational house that the kids and grandkids will come.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
My next door
and
neighbor,
they're coming home to a vacation every day.
and that's what it is, right?
Yes.
And my next door neighbor, older gentleman, retired, and he has one of those garages with a house with a
Yeah.
structure. We were over there for holidays, and he had his daughter's house burnt down in LaGrange. So the kids were living there. His grandkids live 2 blocks away. They're there all the time. He goes, I'm never selling this house. Why would I downsize? My grandkids ride their bikes here. There was a sense of community. Why
Yes.
would I do that? So it's all that downsizing was interesting type of thing. So
Yes.
all right, we're good.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk predictions. Predictions, what do you see? You said 2024 is we're getting back to where we need to be, right? So
Yeah, I mean, we've stayed steady every year. I think 2024 is going to be a robust year for both buyers and
after
sellers.
the Super Bowl, is that when things really start kicking?
They've already started.
Already started, but traditionally.
Traditionally, in the old days, it would be after the Super Bowl. It still is. I mean, you're always timing it, for people to get into their homes before, and get settled before the school year starts.
School year, right.
So it makes sense that this time of the year, the spring market is the driving force.
So my prediction, I grew up in Kansas City. So
Okay.
we're gonna go with the Chiefs.
So another.
So we're going to go with the Chiefs. So good year, Michigan. Now they don't have Jim Harbaugh anymore. What's their one and done?
It'll be good.
It'll be
yes,
good
it'll still be good. I mean, they have the foundation. He built the foundation.
Right.
It's gonna be awesome.
And then
I wish Michigan basketball could redeem itself a little bit,
they
but
were good for quite a while the years past, and I remember that. And your production is Friday Feature, it's called, right?
Yes.
And check it out.
Yes.
Julie Fleetwood from Jameson, Sothebys on the North Shore. So thanks for being with us, everyone. Another edition of Real Talk with Dean Vlamas.